Hello, my name is Abbot Giles Hayes. I have a long history at Delbarton School. I came here first in 1951 to take my entrance exam, and then entered in 1952, graduated 57, professed as a monk in 1959, ordained as a priest 1965, and since then have served 2 terms as headmaster of Delbarton School and 8 years as abbot of the monastic community, St. Mary's Abbey. I appreciate the opportunity given to me by Mr. Michael Carr and his students to leave some of my memoirs here about those 60 some odd years that I've had contact with Delbarton. In addition to that, in the late 50s, I myself recorded memoirs from monks who were here since the 1890s, and some of my own comments are going to be reflecting the things that they said to me on some of the points that I choose to make in the next, perhaps many hours. First of all, let me make a few comments about the earliest origins of the school. As you may remember from the many wonderful articles written by Father Bennett Caffrey in Delbarton Today, Delbarton School was founded in 1939, but the Benedictine monks first came here in 1926. The property had been put together, all 4,000 acres of it, by Mr. Luther Kuntz, who himself, with his family, came here in 1880 and built Old Main, the building that we're currently sitting in, and also purchased a great deal of additional land from nearby farmers. There is extensive written material about Mr. Kuntz and his wife. Written indications are that he purchased 4 or 5 farms to help create a larger property of approximately 4,000 acres. And in the center of that property, right here, on the edge of the highest part of the property, he built what we now call Old Main. The Kuntz family was a group of folks, including Luther Kuntz's wife, whose photo is just over my left shoulder. And also, Mr. Kuntz had 4 children, Delancey, Barclay, and a daughter married to a gentleman whose name was Livingston. And Kuntz called the property Delbarton. It stuck. And so now we have Delbarton School. We have the town of Delbarton in West Virginia. In Mingo County, West Virginia, one of the areas that Kuntz owned. And he lived the life of the Gilded Age here, as did so many other folks all along the railroad out from New York City. And so in this area of Morris County and the area of northern and western Somerset County, many of the Gilded Age wealthy folks had their homes and their estates. Kuntz was one of them and was a fairly well-known gentleman. Right now we're sitting on the side porch of Old Main, and we're sitting in the midst of some material that I'd really like to tell you about. At our last communication, we mentioned that the monks in Newark were looking for a location for a seminary and a monastery for their young monks to study. So at the same time, the Archdiocese of Newark was looking for a location as well. 2 locations were available, Delbarton and what is now, or what was, Immaculate Conception Seminary in Mahwah, which the Archdiocese ended up purchasing, and we therefore ended up purchasing Delbarton. The Archdiocese, the oral tradition was, knew that Bergen County, where Mahwah is, was going to be part of the new Archdiocese of Newark, and Morris County was going to be part of the what was soon to be announced, the Patterson Diocese. So we fell into this, so to speak, this marvelous location, which frankly has outlasted Immaculate Conception Seminary in Mahwah. Monks of St. Mary's Abbey, located in Newark, came here to Morris County, to Delbarton in 1926. What did we find here? And this is a very significant part of the oral tradition in the history of this school. In the first place, they found here statues, urns, ancient pieces of Greek temples, allegedly from Sicily, plus a great deal of replicated material coming out of the Romantic period of the 1830s and 1840s in New York. Material that had been created by, actually, unfortunately, prisoners at Sing Sing in order to decorate, if you will, Wall Street. It so happened that Kuntz was a Wall Street person, a banker, also a Wall Street executive, who came and brought a great deal of material that he had purchased in Italy, or that he had replicated and purchased from the New York locations, to his estate called Delbarton, sometime between 1880 and 1890. Well, Kuntz passed away around 1919. The boys, Delancey, Barclay, and Livingston, really had no lasting interest in staying here. Their mother had passed away before their father did. And Delancey inherited from their father, Luther, this particular branch of the family's property. Barclay inherited the Colorado branch, and I assume, I'm not sure of this, but Livingston and other members of the family inherited the Mingo County mines. I'm going to look directly to the north, towards what we now know in 2015 as Route 46. Now, if it's a little bit humid today, and maybe this isn't as clear as it would be on a sunny day, but if you look directly north, you can see the ridge of where Route 46 rises. And you also see a little bowl coming from that ridge down into Washington Valley and all the way up here to the edge of a hill where Delbarton now finds itself. Now, the geologist did some thorough studies that summer by digging down 2 feet, 15 feet, 30 feet, in some places 1 foot. And there he discovered the granite that the Italian stonemasons dug from what we now jocularly call the Lost City, the quarry. And these gentlemen from Italy dug all of this material by hand, and it was all measured before it was put in place. What a marvel of architecture Old Main is when we understand how difficult it had to be without mechanics, without the great machines that we now have to dig and to cut granite. If you take a look at the archway, and this is one of the profound pieces of architecture that you find on this campus, just the archway. That had to be very, very carefully created. Furthermore, the lesson of the archway is the lesson of Delbarton. An archway stands strong because one piece of stone leans upon another and another and another. And there is mutual support among the stones to keep the archway firm and strong and unbreakable as a piece of architecture. How many years after that? In the 1880s, this was created. In the 1980s, we began our major shout. What school do you go to? And the answer is Delbarton. How did you say that? And the answer is together. In a real way, the archway symbolizes everything that we believe ourselves to be: a community, a family, a group of people who live together.